Welcome to the third video vignette for the Cross-Centered Life. We're going to talk a little bit about legalism today. Actually, I'm going to give you three definitions that will cover the last three sections of these little videos: legalism, condemnation, and subjectivism. All of this is in the book. All of this is in the packet. You just have the PowerPoints as well online. You use whatever you like to cover this material. We were talking last time a little bit about what cross-centered living is. And I told you that cross-centered living really has four components. Just as it has four symptoms: lack of joy, not continually growing in your spiritual walk, your love for God lacks passion, there is a constant seeking after a new technique or experience to bring the pieces of your faith back together again. The four prescriptions, or the four things that can help you become more cross-centered, are, as we've seen here: breaking free from joy-robbing, legalistic thinking and living, leaving behind the crippling effects of guilt and condemnation, stop basing your faith on your emotions and your circumstances, and growing in gratefulness, joy, and holiness. There are three definitions, or three explanations, that are pretty important. They're actually even what your two discussion questions online deal with. The first is, what is Christian legalism? Christian legalism can go two ways. Some is the rules and regulations and guidelines that others say you must follow. Then there's also the legalism that I must follow rules and regulations in order to please God. Here's a short definition, just a quick idea. Legalism is basing our relationship with God on our own performance. In other words, the better I do, the more God loves me. The more things I do right, that means I increase in God's favor. The things that I do less obedient to God or honorable to God, the less He loves me. It's like there's a point system in heaven, and the more things you do right, the more your love bank increases with God. But every time you take a withdrawal, or you reduce that by doing something that God disapproves, then you become less and less lovable. Now we think about this, and we think, well, I'm not even sure if God loves me, but I know that if I do a bunch of bad things that other people have said, or the Bible have said, then God, I'm not lovable as much. Legalism is this thing that you must perform, you must succeed, you must do good things in order for God's love for you to increase. Here's a short definition of condemnation. They really do go hand in hand. Condemnation, whether from outside, people condemning you, or you condemning yourself, is when you're more focused on your sin than on God's grace. As I talk to college students all the time, many will refer to themselves as damaged goods. God will never look past what I've done. Third quick idea is that of subjectivism. Subjectivism is basing our view of God on our changing feelings and emotions. Oh, I've heard it so many times. I just don't feel close to God right now. There's a distance. Or just the opposite. I feel so close to God right now because I feel Him close in my life. But that's fleeting. That's not going to maintain. So these three definitions, legalism, condemnation, subjectivism, are what I'd like to unpack. Let's do legalism a little bit more today. Christian legalism. This is in your packet, a further, more descriptive definition. Christian legalism is seeking to achieve forgiveness from God and acceptance by God through obedience to God. Just think about those words. A person who is a Christian legalist is seeking to achieve God's forgiveness and His acceptance by their performance. If you can imagine or envision an actor on a stage, a play, a Broadway, a musical, and there's only one person in the audience, and that's God. And the whole show, they're doing their craft, they're saying their lines, they're singing the songs, they're making the choreography, just so at the end they can receive the bouquet of roses and the applause of God. But if they stumble, if they screw up their lines, if they sing out of tune, if they mess up on the choreography, if they forget what they're supposed to do, God gets up and leaves the theater. Their performance is what they believe was God's love being given. This is legalism. And when a person has their life centered in the cross of Jesus, when they're cross-centered, they recognize that God's love is not based in our performance. God's love is based on what Jesus did on the cross. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. John 3:16. God so loved the world. His love is not based on you and me and what we do. His love is based upon what His Son did. His Son, Jesus, who came and died in our place. This is what God's love is based in. It doesn't matter if we have a wonderful, wonderful performance or a terrible, destructive, humiliating performance on stage. The love of God is not based on our performance. Now, I have a couple pictures here, one of which is something we would see maybe in an old-timey kind of performance where there would be this man spinning plates. Maybe you've seen this before. And they get one plate going, then they go to a next pole and they get another plate going, then they get another plate going, and they get another plate going, and then the first one starts wobbling. So they run over, spin it, then they go get another one. The goal is to get a series of 10, 12, 15 plates spinning and keep them all spinning. Some of us live our life like that. And we believe that only if all of our plates are spinning, God loves us. God approves of us. And that's really very much against the Bible. No matter if all your plates are spinning or if you never got one spinning to start with, or all your plates crash down. God's love is not based on your performance. God's love is based on what His Son did on the cross for you. Another picture here is of a marathon runner. So many of us come from a worldview that says as long as we can keep running the distance, keep running, keep running, keep running, keep running, and as long as God sees us running, we are loved. That's really not the case. No matter if you make the full marathon all the way to heaven, or if you stumble. God's love is not based on whether you complete the race or your time on the race or your victory over other runners. God's love is based in His Son. Are you a legalist? There's a little section in your packet that I'd like you to fill out. And as you do this survey, this little questionnaire, I'd love for you to see how many things that you believe you fall into the category of as a Christian legalist. Have a good time with that.